Good evening. Thank you for welcoming me here to the Menominee Nation tribal grounds. It's a true honor to stand on land that has been stewarded with such care, wisdom, and resilience for thousands of years. My name is Mark Scheffler. I am a native of Wausau, Wisconsin. I'm a lifelong Wisconsin resident, a retired business owner, a father, a son, a neighbor, and a citizen. And I'm running for Congress in Northeast Wisconsin's 8th District because I believe we need a new kind of politics. One that is people-powered, not driven by PACs, not driven by corporations or billionaires. My campaign is funded by neighbors, friends, and everyday people, not special interests. A decade ago, I toured the Menominee Forest with Marshall Pecor. Anybody know Marshall?
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah.
I used to work with him.
Did you really? So Marshall's retired now, but 10 years ago he invited me, and we spent a couple of hours walking through the forest, and walking among those trees, I learned that the Menominee have been here for more than 5,000 years, and now the archaeological record says it's much, much longer than that. But 5,000 years, that's 250 generations. The forest is not only alive with natural beauty, but alive with wisdom, a living record of sustainability and resilience. That's the kind of wisdom we need in Washington. The Menominee have shown the world that it is possible to harvest, to use, and to prosper without depleting, without destroying, without forgetting the generations to come. I want the Menominee and other nations to help lead the way as we create a resilient, sustainable economy and a sustainable environment for the future of our entire district, the state, and the nation. My campaign is built on 3 pillars, and I hope you can remember this through my speech. 3 pillars of sustainability: economic, social, and environmental. Economic sustainability means building what I call a prosperity economy, one that's not measured just by growth, by how big things get, but by whether people live securely, with dignity and with opportunity. It means supporting local businesses like Menominee Tribal Enterprises. It means supporting farmers and workers and investing in long-term well-being instead of short-term gains. Social sustainability means protecting our democracy, ending partisan gerrymandering like we're seeing in Texas, defending voting rights, ensuring every person's voice counts equally. It means standing up for privacy and for fairness and freedom of every citizen. And then environmental sustainability means confronting climate change with urgency, protecting clean air and water, and preserving the natural beauty of Wisconsin. It also means listening to and learning from those who have done it best, like the Menominee Nation, who for thousands of years have embodied stewardship in action. I also know that the Menominee Nation, like so many others, faces challenges. Too often, promises made to Native communities have gone unfulfilled. Access to healthcare, strong schools, safe housing, and fair economic opportunities should not be struggles, they should be guarantees. In Washington, I will fight to ensure the federal government lives up to all of its obligations and works in true partnership with tribal nations. Together, we can build a more prosperous, just, and sustainable future, one that honors the wisdom of 250 generations of the Menominee people, and one that strengthens every town, city, and tribe in the district. Wawani. Thank you. Issue for me in Gaza is separating the people from the governments, right? So there are the people of Israel and there are the people of Gaza. You hear me talk in the campaign a lot about virtue, so peace, reconciliation. The people of Gaza want exactly what the people of Israel want. They want security, they want peace, they want predictability within secure borders. My plan for Gaza would be to recognize Palestine as an independent country, to an independent state. It's a great example of how governments sometimes fail their people. Hamas has horribly failed the people of Palestine. The Israeli government of Benjamin Netanyahu is failing the Israeli people. So I see it as an issue of separating the people from the governments and supporting what both sides want. As far as military support has to be used for humanitarian purposes only. So I would vote to rescind support for the military effort. And anything offensive, it has to be humanitarian based. It has to advance peace in the region and not senseless killings and the genocide that's happening in Palestine. Thank you.
Yeah. So these little nuggets of wisdom, I talked about the wisdom that is passed down from generations. If I were to say to you, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, we all know that. Under the Affordable Care Act, under President Obama, and the leadership of one of the last Democratic congressmen in this district, which was Steve Kagan, Dr. Steve Kagan, they passed the Affordable Care Act, and one of the nuggets that they put in there was this issue of preventative care. Preventative care, there's a whole host of issues like pre-mammal directives, right? So neonatal care, care for pregnant mothers, infectious disease prevention programs. The Trump administration has been working to cut and to gut to those preventative programs, right? So we're going to pay for it one way or another, but the preventative care is so important. Rick, you're exactly right. You touch up rural health care. There's no better vehicle in rural Wisconsin for distributing preventative care than the clinics and hospitals that have been fully funded under the Affordable Care Act. But that's being clawed away. So those are things that we need to absolutely do. And so funding rural health care and preventative medicine is probably the two most impactful things that we can do for health care in America.
Thank you. Mark?
You'll hear me talk a lot about the right to privacy in my campaign, and that's one of the things that I really support. I would support a constitutional amendment that codifies specific rights in the right to privacy. So among these are the right to control your own information, your communications, your texts, the ability to read what you want, to think what you want, to write what you want, the freedom to associate with whomever you want. And at the end of the list is something that I think is among the most important: the freedom to identify and express yourself as you alone choose. That's it. Yeah, I think it's awful that we've gotten to the point where we're asking our veterans to take care of themselves, to make up for what they're losing. My father was a veteran. He served in the Vietnam War. And the issue, I think, for veterans is exactly as Rick said. It is unconscionable that we're losing facilities, that we're defunding. We're choosing to defund the services to the people that have guaranteed for us over many generations, and including so many people in the Menominee Nation that have fought for this country, right? We're defunding by choice the social services for the people that have supplied us with the freedom to live in this country the way that we want. So for me as a universalist, the idea that we should have universal health care coverage, for example. I also believe that if an individual goes into the service from that moment for the rest of their life, they should be guaranteed free universal health care for the rest of their lives, paid stop. Thank you. You can hear an answer that I think is hopefully refreshing, and that is that I understand that our environmental issues are economic issues. I think it's time that we start to turn the corner from a growth economy that consumes everything, that produces massive amounts of waste, that really consumes the natural resources of this planet, and turn towards a more prosperity economy. There's something that happened just in the last couple of weeks. We get to the point in August every year where we have depleted all the natural resources that the earth creates by the time we get mid-August. So from now, between now and the end of the year, we're actually living in an environmental deficit, and that's all an economic issue, right? We're talking about mines, new mines being created in northern Wisconsin. That's purely for economic issues. It's to fund a growing economy, and I think we can have growth, but we need a prosperity economy that focuses on human well-being first, environmental stewardship, environmental protection. Growth can be in there, but it shouldn't be the top priority. We only have one Earth. So if elected to the House of Representatives, I will be one of a small handful of representatives who have actually spent time in a public school. I taught 3 years public school in Kenosha. And that experience was really, really wonderful for me. I was in a majority minority school. And what I saw there was just the importance of stability. But I also saw the importance of fully funding public school education. In the state of Wisconsin, we can do two things right away. We can repeal Act 10 that was passed, that has decimated schools. Also in the state of Wisconsin, we can support publicly funded school choice, not privately funded school choice. That's pulling a lot of dollars out of the program too. Now those are state issues. On the federal level, what we can do though is we can also help to in teacher recruitment, that if teachers coming out of universities do go into the public schools for say 3 or 4 years time, they would have loan forgiveness. So they would come out, we would supply great teachers coming to our public schools, and it would help them come out of school debt-free. So they said that courage is one of the virtues that you do what's right even though you might have a fear of it, right? So on the campaign trail, I think a lot about inflation, and the courageous part of the conversation is that that inflation is something that was a conscious choice coming out of the pandemic. We have a growth economy. We do spend a lot. The national debt is certainly an element of that growth. The right would have us believe that we need to cut the national debt, we need to cut spending, right? So earlier this year, there was a proposal that DOGE was going to cut $3 trillion from the federal deficit. But the markets went down $15 trillion until President Trump gave up, right? Until they said, well, we're only going to cut about 200 billion or so. We're in a growth economy, and that's when I keep talking about sustainable economics. We need to turn the corner from a growth economy that just gets bigger and bigger and creates inflation, but only benefits a smaller and smaller number of people. We need to turn that corner into an economy that's actually more of a prosperity economy. You can still grow, but that would help bring costs down and help be a little more balanced economy as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
This one. So I ran for state senate 2 years ago on a gerrymandering plan. I was one of a small handful of people that actually addressed the state assembly and the Senate with a new type of a plan that would actually eliminate gerrymandering forever. And what that is, it's a weighted voting plan, just very simply put. In any election, when in a partisan race, for example, if Democrats win 52% of the state vote and Republicans win 48% of the state vote, Democrats should get 52% of the power, right? That makes sense. Well, that happened in 2012 in Wisconsin. Democrats won 58% of the statewide vote for assembly, but they only came away with 35% of the seats because the maps were rigged. What I think we need to do is we need to separate the act of electing a representative from the act of allocating power. My weighted voting system was actually written up in the LA Review of Books, and it got national press for a solution to end gerrymandering forever. We would neutralize the effect of gerrymandering. It would make it impossible for either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party to disenfranchise voters. I keep talking about how important it is to reach out to the other side. And so if the Democratic Party doesn't like me talking about gerrymandering, that's too bad, because the Democratic Party does it in Illinois, in California, and Maryland. But the Republican Party is doing it in spades in other states too. So this neutralizing effect, this gerrymandering, this weighted voting effect, would actually neutralize gerrymandering completely from day one. It would make it impossible for a political party to actually pick its voters rather than having the voters pick the representatives. That's something I would really push hard.
Thank you, Mark.
So on my website, you'll see a whole section on economic sustainability. And one of the things that I'm introducing is a tax modernization plan. That's one of the great ideas to come out of the University of Wisconsin. It's called the tiny tax. I support eliminating the income tax. I support eliminating payroll taxes. I support eliminating FICA and replacing it with a simple tax that taxes all transactions. Without getting into a lot of detail, there's one tax that I really still want to see in place, and that's the estate tax. That's the tax that billionaires can pay or have to pay for estates over a certain dollar amount. But to your question specifically, what I would do is I would tie the amount of the estate tax to a percentage of the minimum wage. So let's say it's 20 times, 30 times, whatever it happens to be. If rich billionaires want to increase the estate tax and get more exemptions, they have to raise the living minimum wage. So an annual amount could be $50,000, $70,000, $100,000. That gives them an incentive to raise the living wage, live the minimum wage, so that everyone can live a prosperous life. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.